here we are again today, just to kind of discuss some things. And I just want to throw out there flexibility in this atmosphere. Flexibility. Erica, I'm going to wink at you. Flexibility. And if in any way you have experienced things shifting on you and moving on you in ways that you cannot control, that you wish you could control, you might be a person who likes to be in control. I don't think that being in control means that you're controlling, but it might be a step further in that you could be a person that's controlling. Could be, I don't know. But what I do know today is that flexibility for me right here at the top of the hour is the word, because things are constantly going on. And sometimes we can kind of go against the pricks and try and change and maneuver things. And then we really just kind of rest in him and realize that it's God's doing. Are you with me today? Amen. And so flexibility, the quality of bending without breaking. Bending without breaking. Bending without breaking. Bending without breaking. And there's some interesting quotes here. One by Albert Camus. It says, "Blessed are the hearts that can bend. They shall never be broken." Be flexible, but stick to your principles. The person with the most flexibility has the best chance of achieving the outcome he or she desires. I'm speaking to myself this morning. If there's no one in the house that has experienced anything, this is I'm going to speak to you, but I'm speaking to me. We are stubborn on vision. We are flexible on details. So that right there, that was just like a little insert. I want to just kind of quickly review, and something has been changed here this morning, and I'm going to go with it, but I'm going to kind of go back to last week was a great service. We feasted well once again, and thank God for the way he moves. And once again, we see being flexible for what God wants to do. Earlier in the worship, I heard, I surrender. And that is something that I'm learning, that every day you got to surrender to God every day. I said it Monday, but Thursday, I had to say it again. I surrender all to you for what it is that you want to do to and through me, right? And so, hallelujah. But before that, when we were speaking, and it's interesting. The only reason I'm kind of pausing is because there's an echo, Apostle. I hear myself coming from you. So I feel like I'm talking and then I'm talking back. So I'm like, hey, because I'm hearing it bounce from upstairs at the same time. So if you could just do me a favor and close your door. Thank you. That's weird. That's some weird feedback. So anyways, when we were here in June, the last time, we were talking about the Last Supper. I was coming from the Gospel of Luke. They all share this, but the Gospel of Luke is where I was coming from, 22:14, and how Jesus had his Last Supper. And in that, if you remember, if you took notes, we were talking about the positioning. We talked about Leonardo da Vinci, who painted the picture of the Last Supper, and how he illustrated as an artist, and what he captured in that illustration was the tension and perhaps the conflict. And we are able to look and see who's who in that picture. However, as believers, what I wanted to take us deeper into was looking at the time and period that was not necessarily but that was not the real position. There were no chairs. The table was not in that way, but it was a triclinium, in which I described as a U shape, where they were positioned around, and the setting of it. It was important to mention Peter and John because of the questioning and the position that they were in. and that they were the host. And why was this one over here and this one over here? To me, we could stop right there. I want to review and then go forward into something. But the purpose of that was the positioning that God will allow his people to be in, which sometimes is not favorable in our eyes. We don't like it. We may not like what we have to do on our job, or what we're doing for that time in our pursuit to get to wherever we are trying to get to. And so sometimes positioning in churches, in companies, in schools, we can question, well, why are they there? Why are they doing that? I did more work than them. But if we really are a believer, a true believer, and we believe in Proverbs 37:23, when it speaks of our steps are truly ordered, Proverbs 37:23, our steps are ordered of God. If that is your prayer every single day, then truly it does not mean that everything is going to be perfect, but that we want to be in the center of God's will every single day of our life. And so it's a prayer. I know that I pray. The minute I get up, it is important to early will I seek you, prioritize and give God priority over any and everything, and be very clear about it. And especially in this day and hour that we live in, are we in agreement with that? And so sometimes we are in positions where we question God, why? What I was able to give to you. And it's so funny. This is hilarious. When I was talking about this, clearly it was personal. And I told you how God dealt with me, this, that, and the other. And he then downloaded some things for me. And the title kind of was, how did the enemy get in my personal space? You know what I'm saying? How did the enemy get this close to me? And then, of course, going on to say that God will assign the enemy to get in personal spaces often for our growth, for our promotion, for our next step, next phase. We don't just go from A to Z and everything is wonderful and perfect, but God uses the enemy. And if we look and we see Jesus, the example, once again, and we see this layout of the table, we see that Peter, being a host, should have maybe been, according to the way we see things, where Judas was. John, of course, laying on him. So then we talked about that type of table as they were laying on the floor, and then the leaning that takes place. So then it brings more perspective, if you will, and more of an image of these positions, the conflict, okay? And then Judas, the enemy, being right by Jesus, where they were able to share the cup. Sometimes we will share the cup with our enemy, all right? Sometimes as we question and as we are, maybe in prayer, seeking God and saying, why? Sometimes we can shorten all that by just knowing that we're in the will of God because he's doing something great. Usually when God is doing something big in a person's life that goes beyond them, there's an assignment specifically for the enemy to be close to you. And I don't in any way say, go around going, calling folks enemy and stuff, or the devil, but you understand what I mean. He will use, and as it was stated, what came out in Luke was he looked and he said the one that would dip and put his hand in the cup at the same time. And so what's happening here is Jesus is really going by the word, because then he looks at Judas, remember, and he says, what you do quickly, do it quickly. That's what we talked about. Now, here's what's funny. I'm just going to say this because I think this is so cute. I loved it. I got a text by someone who said, do I need to come on up to Seattle, take care of some stuff, and have a thug get on the plane and help you out? What's going on, Lauren? Anyways, I rolled. When I got that audio, I said, look, I said, I love you just for that, but it's all good, right? He's like, I wish I had the audio. It's like, What's going on? What's happening? And the way he put it, it was like, I know you from Seattle, and most of the people around you are from Seattle. Let me bring some Chicago flavor on up that way. What you need? I said, look, I need friends like you. So what we see is at the table, a lot of things happen. At the table, right? We do not invite knowingly our enemies at our table. We just don't. Are you with me? Okay. We just don't. We don't just like make the list and invite the people who hate us or plan to betray us or whatever. Okay. Not knowingly. When you have people at your table, it is an intimate gathering. It is a space where it's the people, thank you, Denise, who you want around the table because you discuss matters of the heart. There are things that take place, Eileen, at the table. You know, secrets are revealed at the table. And a lot of times we see the positioning, the head of the table here, as I'm at the dining room table, and the head of the table here. You get the people who are hosting, and oftentimes the man who is hosting. You have positions here. But a lot of times we can't get caught up in what we see as a position and wonder why someone's been put in a position because of what we think, based on what we think, okay? Based on what we think, our human eye, you know, our carnal mindset. There are many people that are in positions that may be in the past, wherever you are, at your work environment, at church, whatever, where we question, wow, wonder why they doing that. But we just don't really know the mind of God when he is doing something, why he does it. And for that, we just have to sometimes sat down. You know what I'm saying? And let God be God on why he chooses. Why did he choose me? Who am I that man is mindful of me, of us? Okay. So when we look at that, we see that clearly there was going to be a need for Satan to enter into Judas in order for Jesus to be resurrected. In order for Jesus to be resurrected, it had to be written in the book. In order, it was planned from the beginning. In order for us to be redeemed, think about it this way. In order for you to be redeemed, in order for me to be redeemed, we needed Judas. In order for us to get to the cross, we needed someone to kiss us that we thought was our friend, that we thought was our real cousin. You know what I'm saying? We needed that kiss. Had I known, and then we have people like Lauren that's standing with me, who takes the sword and cuts the ear off, you know, out of going, look, that's my homegirl. That's Jesus. we got all the way where he is, right? But then we have Jesus, who is just different, right? Who's like, look, you know, I write plays, right? I write plays, and if someone does something different, you know, directing it, you look and you go, wow, you know, that's why you have rehearsals. Like, what are you doing? I remember one time we brought some people on when we were still kind of doing grace and all, and someone came up in there and I said, look, Viola, handle this. I start to say supper scene, but handle this scene here with the friends and, you know, the personalities and all that. And Viola came up once and she said, I just want to talk with you. Did you change the script? And I said, no. He said, well, we got someone down here trying to just kind of insert and change the script. I said, well, let's go down and have a talk because I wrote what I wrote. You see what I'm saying? So in other words, Jesus is saying, hold up, in the middle of all this chaos, right? Peter, I know you love me, okay? But I got to take a break and be Jesus and work a miracle. and put the ear back on the brother because I need him to be fully functioning for me to do what I got to do. I have an appointment, wham, let's put the ear back on. Peter's like, whoa, what's up? I thought, no. We don't need your carnality in this. We don't need your fleshly ways. I need him to hear everything so that he can continue what he's been called to do. Are you with me so far? So we're talking about at the table is community. At the table is communion. Communion is commemorated. It is remembered. Remember me. Remember me. We've sat at tables for a long time now. You have learned the way I break the bread. You've learned the way I talk. You've learned the way I sit. You've learned me and you know me. We've had relationship at the table, right? At the table, when we have Thanksgiving and holidays, we know certain people and what's going to happen. If you came to our Thanksgiving meals, you would see that Sherelle and I are kind of weird. Or Sherelle is. She just starts doing things at the table. We start laughing at the table. I'm sure Marilyn would sit there. You know, Marilyn, Dr. Marilyn's just like this. She's used to us now. We do things at the table. We have fun at the table. And so your table, what does it look like when you gather together? Remembering Jesus is a command. Remember what he has done. Remember what he has done. At the table, which then explains the position once again, we then understand the woman that broke the alabaster box. So now with that in sight, okay, and understanding the U shape and the positioning in laying down forward, we now know that the woman, right, who broke the alabaster box and began to anoint his feet was not under the table. She was not under the table. She was behind and she was washing his feet. So now here we have, as we move through this, and we go to Psalms 23. Psalms 23, it's amazing when you start breaking up the Psalms and all, but as we say, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. And today, let me insert prophetically, restoration to all of you, which at the beginning is rest. Rest to your mind. See, if I say to your body right now, that would be good. But if I say to your mind, a lot of times your body lines up with your mind. So if your mind is aligned with the word, and I declare to you that you are restored, restored in your health, restored in your thinking, restored in your living, restored so that your mind does not play games of the enemy and the whispers and the noise that we hear throughout the day. That's why Psalms 91 is so good. Psalms 91. But it's interesting because it's he that dwelleth in the secret place. Where is the secret place? What is the secret place? The secret place of your heart. The secret place of, and so we speak of the positioning of the heart as well. So he restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness. He's not going to lead us in places we should not go. I did not say he won't lead us through valleys, because he will, but he leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Now, in doing a study on this, from using commentaries, dictionaries, and you name it, We could be here all day breaking that down. That's not the point that I want to make. I just want to give some prophetic utterance in there as I feel led. But I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff. It's the rod and that staff that you can have like a good 1-hour message on, but they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Remember, fill me up, Lord, fill me up, fill me up. Okay, till I overflow. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. But we're at 5. You prepare a table. Remember, I didn't prepare it. He prepared it. Now we're speaking spiritually, metaphorically. He prepared the table. He put the devil by me on the job. Because I really don't want this job. There's something else that I want. Or perhaps if you want a position outside of the job, he put the devil there to buff you so that you can get some grit, some spiritual grit, but that you could also rest in his promises, which is a trust thing, which then if it's a trust thing, it's a love thing. If it's a love thing, then it's a relational thing. And that relational thing happens at tables. So you did this. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. You did this. You put me in the presence. See, sometimes we manipulate this and we get real carnal, like, yeah, I'm about to be in the presence of my enemies. Yo, I'm gonna show them. And that has like this carnal sense. I've done it before. Honestly, I've been like, yeah, on this kick, like, no, put me up when I felt wronged and felt passed over or felt like I didn't get it. And I'm like, So then I take the word and it's the word, but I manipulate it in tone and with my motive so it can work for me, so I can have a, got you, told you, That's sometimes how we take that, like we're going to get the glory. So a lot of times that has like a heart that is not positioned or humbled, or God has not completely been allowed in our hearts to crush us. Crush us. I was on a roll and got shut down with my own self. But you understand what I'm saying? It's like, it's not that social media let me post, yo, yeah, this is what happened. That's not what this is. This is, you did this. You know what I'm saying? You did it. When I do stuff, but you prepared before me the presence of my enemies. Now, in the anointing of my head with oil, here we are again. I want to remind us. Yes, I said this 2 weeks ago. I want to be redundant for a reason. You anoint my head with oil and my cup runneth over. If my cup runs over, it means that I'm full. I'm fully surrendered. And so then I've been dwelling with you. I've been at the table. And I get a chance then to lean in on your heart. John, you see what I'm saying? So the restoring business is interesting because we have Peter, who is at the table, who's questioning, yo, what's up? What, are you the man? Are you the man? All right. This is captured in the painting. Peter, Jesus then predicts, because you're so full of zeal, you're so full of youth in what you're saying you will do, and what you move quick. Take off ears that I got to put back on. By the time some of this goes down, you will deny me 3 times. But the restoration is the fact that Peter then would be restored by Jesus, because he doesn't leave us out there, but he would be restored. And he would then be the one, as we know, when Jesus would return, to explain that. So you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. So now let's go on to Esther. And today I will not be able to do justice. We can end this next week, but I'm just going to open it up a little bit with where I'm going when we talk about tables. Remember that, y'all? Tables, tables, tables. And Esther 1, and I'm going to read it a little quick so that I can make the point and then end it and come back next week. Esther 1 says, now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this was the Ahasuerus who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. In those days when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the citadel, that in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast. Here we are again with the feast for all his officials and servants, the powers of Persia and Media, the nobles and the princes of the provinces being before him, when he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the splendor of his excellent majesty for many days, 180 days in all. And when these days were completed, the king made a feast lasting 7 days for all the people who were present in Shushan, the citadel from great to small, in the court of the garden of the king's palace. Still with me? 6, there were white and blue linen curtains. We don't have to read that. I'm gonna go on to 8. In accordance with the law, the drinking was not compulsory, which means mandated. It was not a mandate. For the king had ordered all the officers of his household, and they should do according to each man's pleasure. Now, this is where we're getting to. And this is where I had to be flexible this morning because God said, woo. I said, okay. But we're still talking about tables, but we're going to put leadership in this. In 9, it says, Queen Vashti also made a feast for the women in the royal palace, which belonged to King Ahasuerus. In some of your versions, it could be XER, or Xerxes, okay? And on the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded his 7 eunuchs, all right, who served in the presence of King Ahasuerus. In 11, to bring Queen Vashti before the king wearing her royal crown in order to show her beauty to the people and the officials, for she was beautiful to behold. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command. Brought by his eunuchs, therefore the king was furious and his anger burned within. Then the king said to the wise men who understood the times, for this was the king's manner toward all who knew law and justice, those closest to him, okay, who had access to the king's presence and who ranked highest in the kingdom. Now we're at 15. What shall we do to Queen Vashti according to law? This is according to law, because she did not obey the command of King Ahasuerus brought to her by the eunuchs. And Memucan answered before the king and the princess, Queen Vashti has not only wronged the king, but also all the princes and all the people who are in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, for the queen's behavior will become known to all women, so that they will despise their husbands in their eyes when they report. King Ahasuerus commanded Queen Vashti to be brought in before him, but she did not come. We'll stop there. Okay, that's a lot to unpack. Now, if you're like me, I've heard this story from being a kid. Usually it's something that, we're told as singles, hold on, because I'll tell you, you're going to take the place and you're going to come in and you're going to marry the king. Marry the king. Going to be rescued. But I think that as we dig, Kareem, as we dig deeper here, for the point that I'm making, speaking of tables, we're not going to be able to get to this table today and the gallows and what happens. And when the enemy thinks he is building something for something or someone else and ends up hanging on them himself. What we're dealing with today is Vashti, whose name means beautiful one. We have Esther, Hadassah. Esther is the hidden name. It is star. We have a woman that hasn't come on the scene yet. I have not read about her, but she's one of the players in this. Hadassah is a myrtle tree. Myrtle tree. This is a young Jewish of great beauty, a Jewish girl of great beauty and careful education. She's an orphan, a child of the tribe of Benjamin, adopted by her cousin Mordecai. So we have Vashti, the king. We have Mordecai. We have Haman that's going to come along. But we have a situation here where a woman has refused the command of a king. Now, many would say, yeah, but she was being, I'm every woman. But it's not, it wasn't 2023 then. Okay. It wasn't 2023. A lot of commentaries or certain things that you read, got to be careful what you read. Some argue and say that he had commanded for her to come in naked. Yeah, yeah. So her refusal, whatever side you want to be on, well, I would have done that too. Well, here's the thing. The consequence for refusing the request of a king as a queen is that you are either banished, meaning you are sent to a country, probably an island. Okay, remember John was sent to an island, and you are left, or you are executed. So maybe if she would have known the consequences, they would have said, hey, you know what? You can take this stand now if you like. Times haven't changed like that yet, but the king did summons you to come in. And since the king summons you, if you're going to say no and not come, these are the consequences. Maybe she would have thought about it. So either executed or banished. Now what happens is something has taken place that with all the provinces and what he rules could end up being that every woman begins to rebel against the law. So we got to do something. We got to call on Deborah. We got to call on Maria. We got to call on Erica. We got to call on Zaina. We got to call on one of character. We got to call on one that has been misplaced in society as a result of her parents dying. So coming out of what would look to be a dysfunctional family. But no, God can't do that because he doesn't work with dysfunction. He only works with perfection. So those of us who sometimes are dealing with things in our families, God still moves. In fact, he likes those kinds of setups. God still reigns. He likes those kinds of things. He is a God of drama as far as I'm concerned. He gets in it and he makes moves that man could never make. But more than anything, today, we're not going to finish with the tables. But what I want to prophetically speak is what we see here is when you look at the characteristics of this king, he is a tyrant. He's a madman. His characteristics and what he has done prove him to be so. He likes to drink. He has a large sexual appetite. Yeah, which then means he's perverted. He's very carnal. I get my readings from the back, in case you're wondering where all this came from. How did she get all that? If you study the background of this king called Xerxes or Ahasuerus, he drinks. Okay, you could see that by the feast that he continued to have. His character is just less than par. It's flawed. He's a man who is mean. So you have an Esther that's going to come in who has been brought up by Mordecai. And what we see here is sometimes as we relate, we keep trying to get out of hard circumstances. And we are called to be in the trenches at times. We're called to sit in places that are hard, that are arduous, that are complicated, where there is a tyrant that is in charge, not really giving God credit for the way he wants to use us. We want to move and hop because it's not the thing, not realizing this could be the very thing who I'm dipping and who's dipping the cup and putting their hand with me and kissing me, but betraying me at the same time is the very thing that God is using to grow me up. And it's beyond me. This is, if you wanted to be a cute story that you could start off telling your young ladies. But it is so much greater than that. It is in history as a story, as a real story, as history. It goes beyond my selfish desires and what I want to do with my gift and what I desire to do with my voice, what I desire to do with my time, into knowing, hallelujah, that for such a time as this, it came out of Mordecai reminding a woman, I know you're beautiful, I know you got this far, but let me remind you of what God is calling you to do. Usually when the devil is right there, or when God calls you to go into the trenches of the enemy, it's beyond you. It is a dream that you have put down in your journal. Trust me, I got journals all around me, got about 100 of them. But when it does not happen in the way you want, when your gift is not noticed, when it's not paid attention to, it's because God has called you beyond your beauty and your cuteness and your good looks and your singing voice and your spoken word and your rapping. It goes beyond the satisfaction of you and your local surroundings into saving a nation. It would be beyond her, but it would be the same. I want you to be in history because you're going to move something that's going to go along with the plan. You're going to be resurrected at a point for such a time as this to see the enemy hang himself. The paradigm shift takes place in the beginning. The plot takes place immediately. If we understand what is going on, Vashti represents an old world system being moved and shifted out the way. She represents the old way of doing things. She represents the carnal way of doing. She's beautiful, but she does not have the character. She does not have the dysfunction. She does not have the absence of parents to buffet her to get to a place where she would understand. So she is moved out of the picture so that character can come in and it can shift the nation for such a time as this. Leadership must have vision that is not blurred. Leadership has shifted. COVID messed some people up. It messed businesses up. It messed businesses up to the point of they went out of business. In churches, people didn't understand what to do. How do we reach the people? What do we do? Where do we go? How do we do it? How do we reach? How do we teach? How do we grow? How do we blossom? Be still and know that I am God. I'm bringing you down to ground zero. Every business that captured a hold to something new and didn't go about doing business the same way began to succeed because in the midst of crisis, they saw a way to serve differently. God bless you this morning. Thank you. We'll continue next week at the table.